I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity by Paramhansa Yogananda. This is a book of his prayer poems. And this one is, Burn thou my frailties in the furnace of trials. In the furnace of trials, the ore of my life is being purified. The fire of experience melts away all my delusions' dross. O divine artisan, burn away all my impurities, bring out in me the steel of endurance, and hone it to a fine edge by deep calmness. Forge in me from the tempered steel of mental balance sharp swords of self-control and firm tenacity. With the weapon of inner equilibrium, teach me to fight every enemy of distraction. And when I read that title, burn away all my frailties in the furnace of trials, I heard a little, do we have to say that one? Listen, the trials are here anyway. We're not asking for them, they've come. Okay, so it's just a question of what do we do and why are they sent to us for this reason. This is from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda. These are parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. This week's theme is, We are children of the light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. It is common for people to perceive themselves according to their present realities. A person in ill health says, I am ill. Few say, I am well, it is my body that is suffering. People in a low income bracket say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outwardly I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Thus, when it comes to moral and spiritual development, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses and their mistakes. They consider it almost a sign of humility to say, I am a sinner, though in effect what this means is that they identify themselves with their sinfulness, not with the soul's power to transcend all limitations in God. The great masters, including Jesus Christ, have always emphasized the divine potential of mankind. To encourage us, they address us as children of light, not of darkness. The Bible in the Gospel of St. John makes the point that our true home is not the mud of this earth, but the light of heaven. No man hath ascended up to heaven, it tells us, but him that came down from heaven. This passage continues, even so the Son of Man who is in heaven, emphasizing that Jesus, though he lived on earth, is perceived by the eye of wisdom as conscious, even in human form, of his true reality in heavenly spheres. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness, and not to bewail our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the Bhagavad Gita states, Seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts. But those who, lacking in wisdom, seek him with impure motives, cannot perceive him, however much they struggle to do so. If you want to know God, Paramhansa Yogananda said, live in the thought that you have him already. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. Well, good morning again to all of you in person. I can't get over it. And also, of course, all of you joining us online. It's just, last Sunday we were asking ourselves, is this just a dream? It seems like a very real dream, and there's food in the dream. But this is something we'd wanted for so long. Is it actually happening? And so this Sunday it feels, yes, it is actually happening, because here we are, and in-personness continues, and it gives a little more of a feeling of being back home again, because the first time is a little bit of a just surprise and just that initial reaction, and then this is the sort of and the follow-up, for lack of a better word. I was smiling when you all were chanting the threefold Om with me, because I was realizing, for some people, if they're new to this, or if you've been online and haven't fallen out of the practice of chanting it along, I was about to say, let's all get this note, but no, people remembered and everybody else jumped in. It actually reminds me of, I heard, the first time Swamiji created the whole Sunday service format. This was in the late 1980s, which means about 20 years into Ananda's existence. So a long time before this service format was established, based on Master's Sunday service, but a little bit different. And Swamiji had asked someone to read from, just like I read just now from the scripture reading. In those days, it was a whole commentary on the Bible and then a whole commentary on the Gita. So it was a bit longer and read by two different people. We still have that book. It's called Rays of the Same Light, and sometimes we do read from that. But Swamiji wrote this other newer version that's a little more condensed. So anyway, after the first person read the thing, and they were doing this all for the first time, and Swamiji said, now chant the three Oms. And so the person went, Om, oh, they didn't know. It had never been done before. And then the next person to go up and read was Jyotish, and then Jyotish read, and Swami said, Jyotish, chant the threefold home. And so, Om, because again, it's from that moment. We have done it all these, 30 years later? Just amazing. But Swamiji created this format of a ceremony for Sunday satsang, which includes the Festival of Light, which we don't do every Sunday, as is done in America and in Italy, partly because it's a lot of poetic language, and it's wonderful, but it's just that it can be a bit, for people, if it's not their first language, it can be a bit difficult, just as if I were reciting Tamil poetry. I would love it, but you wouldn't like it, because of my Tamil. So the thing is that this, we give the words out, and it's a wonderful thing that we do, and we want to do more. And if we could do it every Sunday easily, we would. So we'll maybe get to that, but we do it regularly. And because why do we have ceremonies at all? For example, Swamiji made the point that. Let me take a step back. What is Sunday satsang versus a class? Why do we call something a satsang versus a class? In America, it's called Sunday service as opposed to a class. And the purpose of a class is to instruct. Here is a class on Hong Sa. Let's all learn how to practice it in this way. Or here is a class on, how to develop harmony with others, according to Master's teachings. It's all Master's teachings, period. But a way of, us sort of absorbing information, and hopefully more than that, but still, that's the primary vehicle. Class is the vehicle for that. A Sunday satsang and other ceremonies that we have are for transmitting inspiration, you see? And it's a subtle difference. You say, well, classes don't have to be inspiring. Well, obviously one would hope that they would. But there's a difference when you're trying to connect both, and it's a group thing. It's not just that, some person stands and they just flood the room with inspiration. First of all, it's God doing everything. And second of all, the satsang is a coming together. So the energy that we bring, each of us, adds to that blessing, so that you may not even remember anything that's said in the satsang. You may not, and I'm saying this very impersonally, and you may not even listen to the satsang, but say, I like the chanting and I like the meditation, but somehow I feel good afterwards. And that feeling good is not only inspiration, there's more to it, and I'll come back to that. So Swamiji, in creating this format, said, well, it's following the lines of what Master did, because he did parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, and he spoke on a theme each Sunday. But he said that basically most of Master's satsangs actually were classes. He was instructing people. It wasn't that he wasn't doing it with inspiration. He said Master could do anything, and it was inspiring. So, but he often, because he was also starting this work back then, and it was early years, I mean, there was not a lot of deep understanding. Even the monks that had joined the monastery, he had to explain to them why they couldn't go out dancing on Saturday nights in the nightclubs. They sort of, well, why not? It's Saturday. Just, oh my God. So, you know, Master had a lot of courage and was breaking ground on this very sort of, anyway, foreign soil in America. And so it took a while to really, it was necessary at that time. But again, it didn't matter if Master just stood there and said nothing. The whole room would be flooded with inspiration. But also, a ceremony has even another power besides just inspiration. It's also as a vehicle for us to receive God's grace. That's a very subtle thing, because we understand, as Master said, on the spiritual path, 50% is my effort, 50% is the Guru's effort on my behalf, and, I guess that's it then. 25% is my effort, 25% is the Guru's effort on my behalf, and 50% is the grace of God. And so that grace of God sort of seems a little bit abstract, like grace of God? Irkava? I hope so. I have to leave that to him, I guess, or Divine Mother. And so, but that grace, Swamiji said, is what you experience when you feel that good feeling. Just if you leave and you just feel, sometimes we can identify it. I was really worried about something and now I'm not worried. I feel more peaceful now, whereas before I was just agitated. I feel more awake. But sometimes we just have almost like a tingling or a vibration, it's hard to put it into words, but we have that good feeling, as Swamiji called it. He said that is, you're experiencing the grace of God in that way. It's sort of, if you want to think of it as with electricity as the metaphor, that if we were all light bulbs, and sometimes the light bulb shines brighter because the current is stronger, and sometimes less so. So the light bulb may not know that the current is the source of that power, but it notices that it's brighter. So we, in the same way, when we receive that universal power available to everybody, it's not particular to one path or to one person. But it is, on the other hand, individually meant for you and you. Each of us has that own, just as the light bulb has its own socket to rest in, so we have our own connection with God. I'll end this metaphor here. Yes, and the wires represent the irda. No, forget it. Never mind. So the point is that we are wanting to invite that grace into ourselves, and God is wanting to bring it into us. And the only thing that stops that is if the light bulb says, I guess I am continuing, I am not a child of light, but of darkness. I couldn't resist. It's a silly thing to say, but obviously you look at the light bulb, its whole job is to bring light. There's nothing else that it does, except get hot maybe. And so it's just that's what we are. We are children of the light. There is a line in the Festival of Light, which at one point during the ceremony, the person leading the ceremony says, "O children of light, forsake the darkness." And then, please stand, don't please stand, but that's part of it. And then we begin this whole affirmation of our identity as children of light. Unfortunately, one day the Acharya threw a slip of the tongue in one center, said, "O children of darkness, forsake the light." And everybody sort of, speak for yourself. So anyway, it happens to everybody. So we want to identify that very strongly with ourselves, that this is who we are. Why? Because we are. It's not because I will fight against that thought of untruth. It's not because everyone tells me that it is not so, but it is so. It's not because of my own internal ego fighting. It is all these things, but the fact is, it's true, period. It's sort of like saying, we're on the east coast of India and, we're at this certain, latitude or whatever, and we're on this particular planet, which we call Earth and whatever. I mean, this is just certain things that are true, and even deeper things than that. But still, that we can hate it, we can argue, we can theorize that maybe, no, I think I live on Mars, you live on Earth. And you might say, maybe you're right if you think that, because it's a weird thought. But the point is that we are children of the light. Everyone is. That's the thing to remember. We are children of the light means I am a child of the light first. That we have that understanding in ourselves, that that's who I am. Doesn't matter. Master said, gold can be covered with mud for centuries. Still it remains gold. It remains pure. And that's one of the reasons why gold is valued so much, is because it doesn't react, it doesn't corrode, it doesn't go bad. It's soft, so it bends, but it doesn't lose its luster. And he said, you just wipe all of that away and the gold is revealed. And he said, that gold is our true nature. Or to put it another way, our true nature is that gold. Nothing can affect it. And so we should identify with that. How do we do that? Swamiji said one thing to keep in mind is identify ourselves with our goals, not with our present state. Identify with our aspirations. What is the direction we're heading in, rather than where we are right now? If, a child comes home from school and says, I learned that, 2 plus 3 is 5, and say, well, you're not going to get very far in life with that. You see, this is a step on the journey, and soon they'll be doing calculus, or maybe they'll bail out at trigonometry, but they'll get there through all the kind of math that these are the steps that are needed. So God sees us that way, and so we should see ourselves in that way. I'm going in the right direction. And even if maybe I don't think I'm going in the right direction, I want to go in the right direction. Even that's a huge thing. I mean, think even of ourselves before we came to the path. Did we even know what the right direction was? If you did, you're very fortunate. I certainly didn't. I was just lost. I knew whatever direction I was going in wasn't right because of how I felt. Miserable. And I knew there had to be more. I knew there had to be a truth. I knew there had to be some joy that I wasn't able to get. As Master said, all the joy and fun that I could get from ice cream, it wasn't enough. He put it very lightly, but it's something everybody can relate to. And so and people around me said, no, this is enough joy. Do this, follow this standard path in life, you'll have joy. And I didn't quite have the courage to ask, and is it making you joyful? Because you could see from the face, it'll bring joy. Trust me, kid. No, I didn't see any joy. And that scared me. And I didn't feel superior at all. I just said, there's got to be more than this. One person was saying to me, you need to work and earn lots of money. And I wasn't against that. It's just that the jobs that did that, I wasn't interested in. And so I said, why? And the person said, because then you will have enough money for a nice vacation. And then on your vacation, you can go skiing in the Alps, in Europe. And I said to with that I decided to just, Om Guru and left. But I said to my friend, can you believe what this person said? Earn enough money to have a vacation to ski in the Alps? And my friend, to my dismay, said, but you have to understand, it's really fun to ski in the Alps. I've done it. And you get bored just skiing in the local places. I hadn't even skied ever. So, this was kind of already a little lost on me. I finally did ski one day. And, it is quite fun, but not in the Alps. So, anyway, but I said to my friend, I don't want to spend so much of my time in living in a job just so that, once a year I can have a vacation. To have 51 weeks of my life miserable so 1 week I can enjoy? It reminds me of someone said to Mahatma Gandhi, do you ever take a vacation? He said, I'm always on vacation. So again, many approaches, but we should enjoy our life. We should enjoy what we do, which is that we should find the meaning in it. And sometimes the meaning is very apparent. Helping our families, helping others, serving in all that way. Sometimes it isn't so apparent at first. Because again, if you have customers, for example, you're serving the customers, you're helping them. We can think about it more, talk about it more, but still, our efforts are contributing to make another person's life easier, one would hope. And so that definitely, work as service, is real in any industry. But we also can see it as, this is part of what I'm doing for my purification. After all, Lahiri Mahashai, Yogavatar of India, was a government accountant. Not only an accountant, but government accountant. For 30 years, for more than that, many years. He was 33 years old when he met Babaji, and he continued to be an accountant. You might have thought he might have said, "Sir, if I might ask one boon," not just liberation, but he was. But it didn't affect his joy, and who knows, maybe it helped. I mean, he met Babaji because he was transferred to an office in Raniket, and he said, "My office duties were not overly taxing," which gave me ample time for walking in the hillside. They were just setting up the Indian Army cantonment at that time. It's kind of fun if you ever go to Rishikesh and you see it, sort of like, Lahiri Mahashai. Some people have tried to figure out which office he was, or if they could find any documents relating to his time serving in the government posts there. So, still, that Swami Pranabhananda, mentioned in Autobiography of a Yogi, was working for the railroad companies, but finally he was just in too much ecstasy, and Master said he was fully liberated. And in the Autobiography of a Yogi, he said there are only very few masters who are fully liberated. Many who were liberated, in Sanskrit terms we would say Jivan Mukta, but only very few who were Param Mukta, beyond that. What does that even mean? When you become Jivan Mukta, which by the way is our goal. This is what Master said for all of us in this life. Again, identifying with the light. He said if you are attracted to this path, following this path, you should strive to become a Jivan Mukta in this lifetime. I'm sure it's true for other paths too. That wasn't his point. It was just that he was speaking to people on this path, that you've already come. So you should have that as the goal. And what does it mean? It means to not overcome all karma. Remember that. That is not our step one, to overcome all karma. It is to overcome the ego which is generating the karma. You see, as much as we're getting rid of karma, we're also putting karma in. And so the first thing is stop the in. Turn off the faucet, that at least we're not adding any more, and then it becomes finite. And that faucet is the ego. And how does it create karma? All karma is in the form is generated by one of two thoughts. I want this, I don't want this. That's it. It's actually generated by our desires. This is why we're urged to release our desires or uplift them on the spiritual path. Why? Because they're what generates the karma that keeps us stuck here. It's not because desires are bad. Otherwise the teaching is, I want this. Well, you shouldn't. Well, I do. You see, and that just seems unfair. But it's saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. And we're just tying ourselves up with these unfulfilled desires. That's how they trap us, it's like committing energy. It's like lending money to that desire. So I want this, so I put a down payment on that. I want this, so I put a down payment on that. And then I want this, and so suddenly we have all these partial payments without any of the things. And then the EB bill comes. And we say, how much time do I have? Click, and the lights go out. You see, we had the money, but we lent it out everywhere without getting anything back, and now we're stuck without cash flow. And so that's the same thing. Our energy gets committed outward in all these different directions, and then we try to feel something, and then just as it said in the reading, that we just feel kind of dead inside because we don't have the energy to enjoy it. You know how if you might have a certain sweet that you like and at all times, but then if you have a high fever and someone says, here, take this sweet, you'll feel better, say, ugh. Because we don't have the energy to give to it, to enjoy it. It's like, I can barely keep it together. Or if we have, say, we have some movie we love or something like that, but we've had a horrible day or a horribly long day, and someone says, hey, now let's watch a movie. It's like, I can't watch that movie. I just need to rest. I don't have any energy left. It takes energy to enjoy. And we can do that to the extent that we can enjoy anything, even difficult things, if we have worked on retaining that energy in ourselves. That's what self-control is for. Self-control does not mean whatever you want to do, don't do it. It means whatever you do, do it intentionally. And whatever you don't really want to do, but feel, no, I really do want to do it, try to hold back. How do we know if that was an action? Because I wanted to do it and I did it. We don't like the outcome. And why don't we like the outcome? Either because it creates trouble, or it didn't work, it didn't accomplish whatever it was that we were trying to do, or we have this feeling in our heart. We were visiting a corporate, Haridas Ji and I were, Haridas Ji leads the Ananda Bangalore Center with his wife Roma Ji. We were at one point teaching corporate workshops with Hong Saw and energization and Swamiji's course, Material Success Through Yoga Principles. And we went to one company and we were talking about, just with the HR director, but trying to give our pitch about this whole thing. It was funny too, because we would arrive, and Haridas Ji has this wonderful white beard and beautiful bright eyes and all these things. And, you know, when a friend of mine in America met him, he said, how long has he been meditating? Just because anyway, when you meet him, you'll probably, feel the same thing. Anyway, so we would walk into these offices and they'd say, okay, and Mr. Dharmarajan, and nice to meet you. And then they'd turn to him and say, hello, sir. Please, sit. Tea, Venuma? Just this whole thing. So it was lovely. So anyway, we got there, and this man, we were talking about the need for harmony in the workplace. And he said, it's very intense in our work here, very intense. And, I will sometimes be shouting. And we've all agreed, we've all said, it's fine if we shout, because I may be shouting today, I may be giving it, but tomorrow I may be getting it, and we've all said it's fine. And I thought, it's not fine, but in according to his logic, when he says, no, we all have a contract and signed it, what can you say? So it was wonderful being in such a situation with Haridas Ji, because you can just go. And so he said, it's, of course it is fine to shout, and it's nice that you all have that agreement, but whenever we go through an experience like that, it leaves a residue in the heart. And the man said, that's true. And so that's how we know if we haven't done the right thing. It leaves something in the heart. And so that's the need for self-control. And how does self-control begin? By us saying, I'm very upset, but I'm not? No. It is not. Self-control starts not with self-control, but with self-concealment. We don't control first, we conceal. Someone says, and we say, you see, as Swamiji said, that we should do our best to control our emotions, or at least to conceal them. And so then it's amazing, because we had all the fires, of the lower astral hells burning inside of us. And the person comes back the next day and says, hi, how are you? Fine. But there's no mess to clean up. There's no burnt body to try to figure out how to get rid of. You see, no problem. And then the person themselves doesn't have to go through that. And then we ourselves have time, once the fires have cooled, why was I so upset actually? I was actually upset about the 15 other things that happened, and then this last one, which was only one, got all the force of 16 hits back, because I'd held it in against the... So we just say that's not fair to that one situation. Furthermore, would it have worked? No, especially if we're sort of shouting at the mountains to change. These things are just going to be what they are. They take as long as they're going to take, and it's more effective and better for our BP if we can try to at least take it calmly, or if not calmly, quietly. You see? It's the step one. And again, when we don't do that, don't worry. Meaning, because sometimes people will say, gosh, I used to shout all the time, but I didn't know it was wrong. Now I'm on the spiritual path, and now when I shout, not only is it a mess, but I feel bad because I knew I shouldn't have, and still I did it. So many times people will criticize themselves on the path, saying, I'm not a child of the light, because I know what the children of the light do, and I'm not doing that. I'm not following all the rules, now that I know the rules. But intellectual knowledge is not enough. And so we can't, it's something deeper than that impels us to act. Arjuna says that to Krishna, that a man doesn't want to do evil, and yet against his own will does wrong. How can that be? It's true. I didn't mean to, I didn't want to, and still, either because of ignorance or insensitivity or this force that just made me to say. And he said, what is it that compels or forces someone against their will to act in this way? And Krishna says, desire it is, delusion it is, Maya it is, that forces a man to go into error. And so when we feel that, we don't get to say, oh, it was Maya. You're upset, don't be upset with me. It's Maya you should be upset with. No, it's our responsibility because that energy came through us. But we are only responsible for changing ourselves, for apologizing if we can to the person and then letting it be. Because we are not responsible for how the other person reacts and responds too. We can say, it's so unfair, I made you upset, definitely. But if they scream back, you say, I made you scream back. No. The person also is responsible for their reactions too. So we don't want to add any blame more than is necessary. And blame isn't a good word. Responsibility, guilt isn't a good word. Swamiji said, if there's one word I would like to eliminate from our vocabulary here at Ananda, it is guilt. No reason to feel guilt. Most of all because it does nothing, but it gives the illusion of doing something. I feel so guilty. Doesn't that count? No, it doesn't count. Do what we can do to the situation as for the situation in the moment, and then as Master said, forget it. Just resolve to do better and forget it. And just keep trying. But don't beat ourselves up, because the forces that act for that make us act against the way we want to act or the way we know better, those forces are not rational. So it's not fair to think that we can outsmart them just with the mind. The mind helps. But of course, you have to go below their subconscious level to to an even deeper level of reality, the superconscious. Meditation does wonders for taking us along in this way, because it's not necessarily that in meditation we have a vision, someone is going to come and they are going to spill the coffee all over you and be ready. No, it's just that we come out of meditation and we're so calm that then the coffee gets spilt, and suppose it's not boiling hot coffee, and we just sort of go, oh well, whereas if we are keyed up from all the things that had happened and then just see that coffee coming and forget it, that's it. But if we have untied ourselves and released that tension by connecting with our own light, our own inner light source, it just happens. It's not that then, because I am a yogi, because I meditate, therefore I am calm by affirmation. It's by fact. We just feel that. Of course you all know. That's why you meditate. That's why we keep coming. Because it feeds us in a way that nothing else does. So the thing to always remember then is, on the one hand, I'm going for God, so that's why I identify myself with. And Swamiji said that it's a very valid definition of a saint, as not just one who is a person who is already one with God, but someone who is wanting and working and moving in that direction. Krishna goes even further in the Gita. He says, even the worst of sinners, by steadfast meditation on me, speedily comes to me. even now count him among the good. You say, even the worst of sinners, count him among the good, if he's meditating, who steadfastly meditates. So we don't have to worry where we are. We just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And we can say, not with pride, because that takes us away, but saying, I'm a saint in progress. I'm a work in progress. This is where I want to go. And then take it seriously. You know, if someone says, I can't believe you said that to me, it hurt my feelings. You say, well, I am a saint in progress. You know, emphasis on saint. No, we say, I'm sorry. Is that how a saint responds? No, we take things from the other person's point of view, even if it's a negative point of view of ourselves. How can we, because Swamiji has again pointed out, when people are upset with me, and many people were upset with him, I could never understand why. But I think it's partly because they found in him someone who wouldn't necessarily support all of their desires. He was never harsh. He was never just, like this at all. But still, in fact, he said that even with Master and other great masters, the people, they instinctively fear that divine love because they know that it threatens the ego. And so anyway, but he said that when people are upset with me, I don't see them as being upset with me, but with the situation. And that's almost always what it is. Most fights that people have really are saying, I'm tired, you're tired. And it's real, at least fights between friends, they're just tired. It's been too much and I just can't take it anymore. And that's all it is. It's not about who drank the last of the milk. It's just, I'm tired, you're tired. That's all. So a lot of times we could just disengage and say, how about, you know what, another good word is nalaki. Just talk about it tomorrow. As Swamiji has advised us, don't talk right away in the heat of the moment, but do talk. Because it is important for these things to be aired out in time. Why am I talking about children being children of the light and then everything seems to be about conflict? Or as I was reading from Whispers from Eternity about these trials, because this is the time we're in right now. In between there's the... would you be able to get our friend a mask? Yeah. So, he has one for you. So, of course, there's the war, and that's everything, because not only is that proof of unrest, but it generates unrest also. But more than that, there is just a sort of frictional, conflicting energy in the air right now. It's one you can feel. It's also indicated by astrology, but again, it's not that the astrology causes it. It's that we look around at all the bombs, fires, and tears, and then say, what's going on? Oh yeah, I guess that would make sense, but if it does or doesn't, it is happening. And everywhere I turn, someone new is telling me about some mean thing that happened to them. I was feeling frustrated with a mean thing that happened here, and then I talked to a friend, and the friend said, yeah, and my house got robbed. Then I forgot all about my stupid little thing, which was nothing, and my heart goes out to that family, and because again, that is such a mean thing to have happened. Someone just took the stuff. That's if that's ever happened to you, how sort of disturbing it is, because it sort of breaks the rules. And my place was violated, and someone just took what they wanted, and I don't have it anymore. It's just a very harsh kind of thing to happen, and that's the time we're in right now. Not to be afraid, but to say, okay, let me not be surprised if somehow this kind of energy comes into my life, rather than blame the person or blame the situation, to say, well, this is how it's manifesting for me, because we are paying off old karma. We're just burning off old karma. And if this is what it takes to be fine, God, take it as long as you are with me. And stay with me. And also stay with Guru Bhais, because it's helpful to be reminded of friends, of people who are seeking spiritually, because we haven't had a lot of opportunity for that in 3D together. So in this, give everybody the benefit of the doubt in as much as you can in this case, and then also just know that it won't last forever. We'll get through it. But in the meantime, we have to be warriors for the light, which means warriors for calmness as much as possible. Doesn't mean we don't speak or speak up or speak strongly, We also, have to set boundaries, defend the truth, all these things, but with calmness and kindness. And remember, how do we do that? Master's most advanced woman disciple, Sister Gyanamata, said, you can say anything to anyone if you say it with respect and detachment. We're not obligating the person to agree. We're not obligating the person even to hear us. But we're saying it with detachment, not detachment for their feelings. I know this is going to upset you, but I am detached. No, that's cold. So, but to say, I first of all trying to make a statement that will be helpful, and even if it's trying to get the person's attention, but always with kindness and calmness. And if there's some difficulty, let's not blame it on the person, but think of it as, how can we work together to resolve this? Okay, and you'll know in yourself. Does that mean that I should just better keep quiet right now? For some of us, because that has not been such a pattern, that could be a helpful thing to experiment with. For others, it may be, maybe I should say something. Maybe this is the right time. Think about that at least 10 more times, because I saw just recently somebody said, no, I just said the one thing. And I said, remember I said last Sunday, I'm just going to say the one thing, and that's pulling the pin out of the grenade. And the person said, oh yeah, what's this in my hand? And just 3, 2, 1. And that's what happened. So maybe now just be cautious. But the main thing is, let's pray for each other. Because you can always have your way in prayer. You can always get the last word in prayer, whether it's praying for yourself, praying for the other person, praying for the situation, praying for, again, people who are in worse situations. Somebody was telling us they were watching this fun YouTube channel that had all these little orange kittens, and the breed of kitten is called Teddy. So they're called Teddy kittens. Teddy like Theodore, but teddy bear. So very cute. And so they went to log into the channel recently to see, and there was just a post that, we had to leave our home and bring our cats with us because they were in the Ukraine. The person didn't even know. They thought they were Russian, but they were Ukrainian, and they had to flee with the cats, and they're just on the run. I mean, it's just beyond our understanding. You sort of want to write a letter to the powers that be and say, I'm sorry, gentlemen, this just isn't done. But it's ridiculous what's happening. So let's add our prayers for that too. And know that as much as the war is wrong and seems like the wrong thing, which it is, but it is also just the symptom of the deeper disease, which is of people's general anger and frustration and greed and all these things that, in fact, Master said would bring war. And he wasn't saying just between two countries. So let us be, again, not only children of the light first, that as our self-identity, but also warriors of the light, spreading out that peace, that light. Anytime we see suffering, God is helping. So don't feel it's up to me. If I don't pray, this person will suffer. We just could lose our heads that way. But to just do, in whatever disharmony you see, try to send harmony, try to send peace. There was a very strange story, this is what I'll end with, about sometimes people have had near-death experiences. You might have heard of this. If you haven't, you might want to go on YouTube and just look up NDE or near-death experience. It's so interesting to watch an interview with somebody telling you their own experience about dying and coming back. We've had a few people at our center who have had that experience too. And it's interesting. I mean, it's not something we offer a class in. But it's interesting how much it corresponds with the yogic teachings, even if the person doesn't know the yogic teachings. That still, the tunnel of light, which is the spine and all these things. But anyway, so, but mostly all of these experiences that have been shared have been positive. I had this and this, nice thing happened and so on. But there have been a few that were negative, that people shared, negative initially, and then luckily they ended up turning positive at the end. But I don't know, maybe the negative people who stay negative just don't come back. But this person was saying that she died, but somehow she was still, she was in the hospital. I can't remember if she was in a coma or if she died. But anyway, she had this awareness of a person in another town reading in the newspaper, because it had been a day since the accident. She was struck by lightning, of all things, just terrible. And she said she could see this man like a one bright person surrounded by gray shadows of the other people. Reading this newspaper, he bought some fish, and the newspaper was wrapping the fish. And then he saw it, and he just dropped it, and he cried out, oh, this was in a different, language, of course, but Divine Mother, please bless this child. Don't let someone so young die. And she said at that moment, where she was surrounded by all kinds of darkness and evil things trying to get at her, suddenly the light came in, and she was brought into that light. So she died at that time, but then was told, you better come back and finish your thing. So the story goes on. But it was the prayers of a stranger, you see. Another man said he died, he floated up out of his body, and then he sort of hit the ceiling. And you wonder, well, why would you hit the ceiling? Just keep going. And that's what he was thinking too. Just like, he had enough energy to get a few feet towards heaven, but that was it. And then he said he saw his body down below, and everyone who says they see their body say it just looks ghastly. And meaning that's not me at all. They look at themselves, and they look sort of how we see ourselves. I wonder sometimes if we aren't more aware of our astral bodies. And when you see your physical body over there, which again, not anytime soon, but it's like, that's not me. I mean, that's like looking at an old chapel that's broken and torn and say, that's you. It's just like, no. And so he floated out of the body. He saw the body, and then he saw a nurse walk in, and she came, and she saw that he was dead, and she immediately stopped and said a prayer for him. And he said at the time she prayed, suddenly two angel-like people showed up, and they brought him the rest of the way. And of course, ultimately, they sent him back, and that's how we heard the story. But the point is that it was, again, somebody else's prayer that allowed him to move forward. So don't underestimate the power of your prayer. It's God's power. And all we're doing is opening, it's sort of like digging a trench for that power to flow to someone else. So you don't necessarily thank the trench, you thank the water, because you can dig all the trenches you want. Without the water, we've got nothing. So we don't want to ever feel that we are the source of that healing, because we're not. But we can ask God, let us together bless this person, or I ask you to bless this person. And remember, if you're saying, well, this is all fine, but I'm blessing all these other people, what about me? Well, remember Master's saying, the channel is blessed by that which flows through it. The little trench, the channel, that we are blessed. And Swamiji added that the flow of blessing is always strongest at the source. And so if it's meaning, of course, God, but as close to the source that's flowing through us to the other person. So of course, do it sincerely, not like, since I'd like a lot of blessings, I'll pray for some other people. No, but pray for them because it opens the heart, and that's really all that we're trying to do, opening our hearts and our souls to God. God bless you.